With the midterms only 8 days behind us, it appears the 2024 presidential race has already begun. After teasing an announcement for some time, former President Trump finally made it official last night, announcing a third consecutive run for the White House.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States. This will not be my campaign. This will be our campaign all together.
Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hillyard in West Palm Beach. Vaughn, good morning. Good to have you with us. So Trump's announcement came as the so-called red wave really never materialized during last week's election. There's a good chance Congress is going to be divided for the next 2 years. So why did he announce this run so early, and why did he say he's running again?
Right. There was a question of whether he would postpone announcing his presidential run after that slew of defeats among those Trump-backed candidates in those key swing states like Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. But last night, that was not the case. He's going forward, jumping out ahead of the process before anybody else, whether it be Ron DeSantis or Glenn Youngkin or even Mike Pence jump into the race. Donald Trump making clear that he's in it to win it, and he wants to serve in the White House again. Take a listen to part of his speech last night.
I am running because I believe the world has not yet seen the true glory of what this nation can be. We have not reached that pinnacle, believe it or not. In fact, we can go very far. We're going to have to go far. First, we have to get out of this ditch. And once we're out, you'll see things that nobody imagined for any country.
And to put into context, we are still about 14, 15 months away from what would be the GOP Iowa caucus. But you heard the former president lay down that he intends to do this, and he intends to see this campaign through.
Yep, we are already talking about the Iowa caucus, 14, 15 months away. So, Vaughn, we know the president often likes to talk about the 2020 election. Are there other issues he actually talked about in his speech? What does he want to accomplish if he wins?
Right. This is a former president who, we should know, just under 2 years ago, was at the White House when hundreds of individuals, thousands of individuals converged on the Capitol. He never called the Pentagon for backup, despite his vice president and the entire Congress remaining inside of that building. He was ultimately impeached after the 2020, after he left the White House there. And yet now what he is finding is, amid a slew of investigations into him, that he is still referring to himself as a victim, which he did just last night. I want to let you hear another little clip from him last night, though, because as part of being a victim, he still suggests that he should have been the actual winner of the 2020 election. Take a listen to what he would propose to be the remedy for how voting in America should take place.
To eliminate cheating, I will immediately demand voter ID, same-day voting, and only paper ballots.
Of course, this is an electorate which has taken highly to mail-in balloting, especially over these last years here, and yet the former president continues to make the elections and how they are run a central point of his now candidacy for president.
So, Vaughn, what's been the reaction to this announcement, especially within the GOP in the wake of the midterm elections? And then on top of that, are we going to expect the former president to start holding rallies right away?
There was a notable silence last night from most of the individuals, elected individuals within the Republican Party. Over the weekend, you had Cynthia Lummis, a senator out of Wyoming, suggest that Ron DeSantis should be the future of the party. You had a couple now outgoing governors who suggested that Donald Trump has helped the GOP lose several election cycles in a row. But there's not a groundswell, an uprising within the Republican Party to push Donald Trump aside. In large part, there is no rush necessarily for the likes of a Ron DeSantis or a Youngkin or a Pence to jump into the race here. And so Donald Trump is laying that foundation, and he is somebody who has demanded loyalty in the past. We could expect that to take place again. In terms of rallies, there is nothing on the calendar at this point yet. Donald Trump brought up the runoff with Herschel Walker, who was initially his back candidate in that Georgia primary for the U.S. Senate, is now in a runoff with Raphael Warnock. And we should expect to potentially see the former president and now candidate president go out to campaign in Georgia if he were to go and pick somewhere over the next couple of weeks, guys.
All right. Vaughn, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.